Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanacharya. Yamuna Tira Vanacharya. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Girivardhari Kunja Bihari. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parirajgacharya Sasutta Srisimad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parirajgacharya Sasutta Srisimad. His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Purusottam Setra Vipralamba Setra Ki Jai. Prihat Madanga Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembly of devotees. All glories to the assembly of devotees. All glories to the assembly of devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jalmurirayet Naisupraya Subhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. Reading from the srimadbhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 14, Text number 42. Na angasya vamso rajasyer Esha sham sastam arhati Amokha virahi nipra Vamsi sim keshavayarana. Is that Ashrayana? Keshavasayarana? Okay. Nangasya vamso rajasyer Esha sham hatum arhati Amoga virahir nipra Vamse smim keshavashraya Nagasya vamso rajasyer Esha shamhastam arhasi Amokha virahi nipra Vamshe shim keshavashraya Nagasvamso rajasyer Esham sapsabhat arhatir Amoga vira nipra Shimshmin keshavashraya Yasvamso rajasyer Esham sapsabhat arhati Vamse sim keshavashraya Nagasya vamso rajasyer Nisham shashratam arhati Amoga virahi nipra Vamse smim keshavashraya Nangas vamso rajasyer Is that everyone? Jamal? Nagasya vamso rajasyer Esham stasattamarhati Amoga virahini nirpra Vamsesmin keshavashraya Nangasya vamso rajasyer Esham stam arhati Mogai Viravni Ripa Svaismim Keshavashraya Na Not Angasya of King Anga Vamsha family line Rajasya of the saintly king Isha this Samsutam to be stopped Arhati At Amoka without sin powerful Vira their semen He because Nipra kings Vamshe in the family Asmin this Keshava of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Ashraya under the shelter The sages decided that the descendants of the family of the saintly king Anga should not be stopped, for in this family the semen was very powerful, and the children were prone to become devotees of the Lord. Purport: the purity of hereditary succession is called Amogha Vira. The pious seminal succession in the twice-born families of the Brahmanas and Satriyas especially, as well as in the families of Vaishyas also, must be kept very pure by the observation of the purgatory processes, beginning with Garbhadana Samskara, which is observed before conceiving a child. Unless this purgatory process is strictly observed, especially by the Brahmanas, the family descendants become impure, and gradually sinful activities become visible in the family. Maharaj Anga was very pure because of the purification of semen in the family of Maharaj Dhruva. However, his semen became contaminated in association with his wife Sunita, who happened to be the daughter of death personified. Because of this polluted semen, King Vena was produced. This was a catastrophe in the family of Dhruva Maharaj. All the saintly persons and sages considered this point, and they decided to take action in this matter, as described in the following verses. Om Agyanitamirandasya Gananjana Shalakoya Chakshurun Minitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadantmayam Dadanti Svam Padantikam Bansha Kalpatarumbhisya Kripa Sindhurevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pashtatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai. I seek the blessings of all assembled Vaishnavas that I can speak something beneficial for myself and for all of us here. I was listening to a class by Madhavananda Prabhu, and he was talking about how even if a speaker is unqualified, if the hearer is qualified, then something good can come out of the speaker. So if you can all give full attention, even though it's not a qualified person speaking, then maybe I can speak something nicely for the benefit of all of us. So I'm just going to speak something, and maybe we can just have a discussion, because this is kind of an interesting purport. Because practically speaking, almost none of us come from a pure seminal succession. Maybe Ramapati, but practically speaking, I don't think any of us come from a pure spiritual heritage or seminal heritage where there's been a closely guarded way in which children are begated into the world. Generally, at the time of conception, the consciousness of the mother and the consciousness of the father, they basically they predict what the child will be like throughout his life. So, practically speaking, if people are engaging in lusty activities, or they're engaging in sex for the purpose of personal sense gratification based on lusty desire, then those children aren't actually qualified by birth to be Brahmanas, to be Satriyas, to be Vaishyas. They're qualified as Sudras. That's mentioned. I was researching this a little bit last night, and that's one of the things that Prabhupada said, that people are born as Sudras. They're practically animals, more or less. And the Garbhadana Samskar is actually performed for the protection of humanity, for the protection of the child. Human civilization, it's meant to protect elders, it's meant to protect women, and it's meant to protect children. Are there any others that I missed? Brahmanas? Brahmanas. Cows. Yeah, so it's meant for protection. Vedic civilization is about protection of these different classes of people. So the first thing that parents can do to promote protection for their children is engaging in this garbhadana samskar. But practically we don't see that taking place. And even when the child is born, there's no protection. They're subjected to television, they're subjected to iPads and all the things that come with iPads. So practically speaking, we don't have seminal purity within the present civilization. So how are we supposed to have brahmanas? How are we supposed to have people that are spiritually qualified? Mahaprabhu could understand what was going to take place within Kali Yuga. Veda Vyasadeva, he could see what was going to take place in Kali Yuga, and the sages of Namasharanya could see what was going to take place during Kali Yuga. So that's why the sages of Namasharanya, they asked that question. You know, what will happen to the religious principles? And the religious principles are contained within the Srimadbhagavatam. And this Srimadbhagavatam is being presented according to parampara for the guidance of human civilization within this Kali Yuga, which is degraded to less than cats and dogs. Cats and dogs are at least living somewhat of a regulated life of sense gratification, but humans nowadays are practically living a life less than cats and dogs. So we can understand how fallen the condition is in this age. But by the grace of Srila Prabhupada, by the grace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we are being given the opportunity to become purified. So in this idea of maintaining seminal purity, I thought I could speak on maintaining the purity of our spiritual heritage of the parampara, and what that means, what it requires of us. So our ability to enter into the parampara is based on our mood of humility. We can see that the quality of the humility that we cultivate will reflect in the quality of inquiry we can make. Sometimes you'll meet people on book distribution. I'm sure anyone that's gone out on book distribution has experienced this. That if someone's humble, it's a lot easier for them to receive what you're talking about. Whereas if someone is arrogant, you almost don't even want to tell them anything about what you're doing. I experienced this last night. I had someone come up to the table, and they're like, yeah, I know all about this. You know, what are you doing anyways? It's like, why should I tell you? Yeah. It's like, why should I tell you? And like they say, yeah, I do meditation. I know all about this. But, well, have you heard of the Bhagavad Gita? No, I haven't. But I know it. So it's, there's a way in which our attitude, it gives us access into what we're able to hear. So this is actually a quality of the Vaishnava, is the simplicity in which they hear things. There's an example of this that Gaur Govinda Maharaj speaks of in his class. It was actually given here in SanDiego. And he talks about how there was two women. One was an older woman and one was a younger woman. And they had to travel from their respective villages to get to a place where bhagawatsaptaha was being spoken. So they went there, and the speaker said, Ananda Bolo Hari. Yeah. So they said, simply chant Hare Krishna, simply worship the abode of Krishna, and serve Vaishnavas. Very simple. And you'll cross over the ocean of material existence, is what the Bhagavat speaker said. So the women both heard the same thing. And when the women came across the river, and the river was at high tide, the younger woman, she crossed, and she remembered the instruction of the Bhagavat speaker, Ananda Bolo Hari Braja Brindavan. So when she was in the water, she said, Hari, 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 and she crossed. Made it fine. And then the older woman, she crossed the river, and she started struggling. And she said, help me, help me. And she said, don't you remember what was spoken in the class? Ananda Bolo Hari Braja Brindavan. You'll cross over the ocean of material existence. And she was like, what are you doing instructing me? Who do you think you are? And then she drowned. So Gaur Govinda Maharaj says, what's the difference between these two people? The difference is that the first woman, the younger woman, she was simple like a child. She was able to receive the instruction and apply it in a non-duplicitous manner. Whereas the older woman, she had duplicity in her heart. So she wasn't able to receive the message in a humble mood. So our humility and our simplicity in heart is what will allow us to receive the message of the Guru Parampara. There's a similar instance in Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami, he approached Mahaprabhu in a very simple, humble mood. He was so humble that he approached Mahaprabhu saying, "Who am I to know? People claim me to be a big scholar. People claim me to be very learned, but actually it's not so." So he approached Mahaprabhu considering himself duplicitous. But he's actually very simple. Because when he approached Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu told him, Jivera Srupoi, Krishna Nityadas, that you're an eternal servant of Krishna, and he accepted very simply. There wasn't a question of him having to change the meaning or the context. So similarly, we should understand that simplicity is Vaishnavism. That our ability to accept the message of Guru in a very simple, humble way is what will make us successful. It's not our ability to distort the message. In any services that we're doing, we should understand that this is simply the mercy of our spiritual master, and that actually worshiping the deity, Bhagavatam class, distributing books, all these things are actually the property under the proprietorship of our spiritual master. And through their mercy, we're being engaged in that service, and we're taking on that service on their behalf. So it's not that it's us who are speaking Bhagavatam, it's not us who is worshiping the deities. It's us acting on behalf of our spiritual master in service to Srila Prabhupada. And that will actually make that's what makes us qualified. So an amazing example of this humility and the mood that we should enter into serving our spiritual master is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. And I thought I could just read this purport, and we can reflect on it a little bit together in relationship to this topic. So this is from Bhagavad Gita 2:7. Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. Purport. By nature's own way, the complete system of material activities is a source of perplexity for everyone. In every step there is perplexity, and therefore it behooves one to approach a bona fide spiritual master who can give one proper guidance for executing the purpose of life. So this is an interesting point, that the material world is actually being designed by Krishna to make us exhausted with engaging with the material energy. In Sri Upanishad, Prabhupada says that the inconveniences, the trials and tribulations of material existence should act as a reminder of our incompatibility with material energy. And then one should take the good advice of the material energy through their direct experience and couple it with transcendental knowledge. And by doing that, one can actually overcome the material energy. So if we don't make the choice to be humble, if we don't make the choice to be simple, the material energy is going to kick us around until we're forced to be. So it's easier for us to just immediately make the conscious effort to take the humble position from the get-go. And that's what Arjuna is doing. Arjuna is putting forward so many arguments, and then up to this point is he choosing to change his mood in the way he's approaching Krishna. Rather than putting forward so many arguments and ideas of what religiosity is, he is saying, Shishyasteham sadimam tvam prapananam, which means, now I'm your disciple, soul surrendered unto you. So this is how we can enter into hearing our spiritual master speak. This is how we can enter into hearing Bhagavad Gita, that actually I don't know anything at all, and by your mercy I'm able to receive something. So we'll read on. All Vedic literatures advise us to approach a bona fide spiritual master to get free from the perplexities of life, which happen without our desire. They are like a forest fire that somehow blazes without being set by anyone. Similarly, the world's situation is such that perplexities of life automatically appear without our wanting such confusion. No one wants fire, and yet it takes place, and we become perplexed. The Vedic wisdom therefore advises that in order to solve the perplexities of life and to understand the science of the solution, one must approach a spiritual master who is in the disciplic succession. A person with a bona fide spiritual master is supposed to know everything. One should not therefore remain in material perplexities, but should approach a spiritual master. This is the purport of this verse. Who is the man in material perplexities? It is he who does not understand the problems of life. In the Brihad Aryankyap Upanishad, the perplexed man is described as follows: Yova etam aksaram krime avitsalam loka prati sakripana. He is a miserly man who does not solve the problems of his life as a human, and who thus quits this world like the cats and dogs without understanding the science of self-realization. So this is another way in which humility and simplicity can act in our benefit. Because if we're not humble, then we won't be able to be willing to admit that there are problems to life, that I am struggling with my senses, that I am struggling with the material energy at every single moment. That's why when you meet people on book distribution, they don't want to take a book because they're duplicitous. They feel, no, I have everything figured out. There's no problems in life. Why do I need your book? What can it do for me? I have my house, I have my children, I have my nice car, my wife. Why do I need Bhagavad Gita? What's the point? So the Krishna consciousness movement is actually acting on behalf of Krishna to uproot this duplicitous attitude. And a simple way to uproot this duplicitous attitude is through the distribution of prasadam, through the distribution of the holy name, because these things have the ability to act on the heart in such a way that a solvent acts on something sticky. Sometimes you'll find mango sap in India. There's lots of mango trees, and if you pick a mango and you get mango sap on your hand, it's a lot more than tree sap. It's very, very sticky. But there's a solvent in which dissolves this stickiness from our hand. So similarly, this duplicitous mentality that we have in approaching Krishna can be dissolved through the chanting of the holy name, through hearing from a purified soul. Through their simplicity, that simplicity can enter into our heart. And this human form of life is a most valuable asset for the living entity who can utilize it for solving the problems of life. Therefore, one who does not utilize this opportunity properly is a miser. On the other hand, there is the Brahmana, or he who is intelligent enough to utilize this body to solve all the problems of life. Ya etat aksharam grahi viditi vashmala lokdat prati sa brahmana. The Kripanas, or miserly persons, waste their time in being overly affectionate for family, society, country, etc. in the material conception of life. One is often attached to family life, namely to wife, children, and other members, on the basis of skin disease. The Kripana thinks that he is able to protect his family members from death, or the Kripana thinks that his family or society can save him from the verge of death. Such family attachment can be found even in the lower animals who take care of the body, to take care of children also. Being intelligent, Arjuna could understand that his affection for family members and his wish to protect them from death were the causes of his perplexities. Although he could understand that his duty to fight was awaiting him, still, on account of miserly weakness, he could not discharge the duties. He is therefore asking Lord Krishna, the supreme spiritual master, to make a definite solution. He offers himself to Krishna as a disciple. He wants to stop friendly talks. Talks between the master and disciple are serious, and now Arjuna wants to talk very seriously before the recognized spiritual master. Krishna is therefore the original spiritual master of the science of Bhagavad Gita, and Arjuna is the first disciple for understanding the Gita. How Arjuna understands the Gita is stated in the Gita itself, and yet foolish mundane scholars explain that one need not submit to Krishna as a person, but to the unborn within Krishna. There is no difference between Krishnas within and without, and one who has no sense of this understanding is the greatest fool in trying to understand Bhagavad Gita. So, once again, bringing it back to the main point so we don't run off on a tangent too much. We can see from that purport that Prabhupada is accepting the Bhagavad Gita in a non-duplicitous attitude. He's accepting the Bhagavad Gita according to the way Krishna presented it. That's why Bhagavad Gita as it is, that's stated, because we're accepting it as it is without any extra motive. I'm not even promoting myself as God or promoting something else as God, but Krishna is God, and you're a servant. Very simple. But those who are duplicitous, they won't be able to accept this. So, I think we'll open it up for discussion, and then if any of these other points that I have written down come up in the course of that discussion, I'll speak on them.
There's an interesting statement in the purport that the Bhagavad Gita, that one said the disciple of a spiritual master knows everything.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's explained also, I think it's even in the same morning lecture I was morning walk I was mentioning yesterday or the day before with Jayadvaita Swami and Prabhupada in Mayapur, that it may be the same one, but I forget. But Prabhupada says, I forget the whole thing, but essentially, devotees are asking, the spiritual master knows everything.
Mm-hmm.
How does that make sense? How does the spiritual master literally know everything? Prabhupada says the spiritual master knows whatever Krishna wants him to know. Mm-hmm. So therefore he knows everything. So it's not necessarily that, the disciple knows, exactly what's going on in the next room,
mm-hmm.
or he knows this or that, but he knows whatever the spiritual master wants him to know, and therefore his knowledge is perfect. He knows everything he needs to know to cross over ocean of nations, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's a good point.
So I can tell you what my question was going to be, and then I can tell you what I think. I think you had kind of answered it, but I don't know, maybe there's more that you could add to it. So my question was, so you're speaking about the simplicity of hearing, and how, or just simplicity in general. And then when we were reading this Bhagavad Gita purport, at this point it came up, you had made this point of making the choice to be humble. But is it so simple to just say, okay, I'm going to be humble? Is it such a simple thing? Because I don't know, in my efforts it seems to be quite complicated. Or maybe it's because I'm duplicitous. But I think you may have answered it later on in your discussing the purport. And you said to uproot the duplicitous condition, we should distribute prasadam in the holy name and hear from those purified souls. And I was thinking that may have answered the question, because you're saying duplicity is what causes us to not be so simple in our hearing. So does that make sense? So do you have anything more to add?
Well, the principle of humility is that we're constantly trying to improve. Prabhupada when he was in San Francisco in 1967, Upendra, his servant, asked him, Prabhupada, sometimes I try to be humble, but it feels artificial. It just doesn't feel like I'm actually being humble. And Prabhupada said, this is good. To be humble means that I never feel like I'm doing enough for Krishna. And that when we don't feel like we're doing enough, that means that there's room for improvement. And we're constantly trying to improve. So, if we feel that we're being sincere and being humble, then there's a problem. So our humility is tested by how much am I trying to improve my Krishna consciousness? How much am I taking shelter in the holy name and taking shelter in the instructions of my spiritual master, taking shelter of the Vaishnavas to improve my condition? To be humble is to admit that I'm not perfect, and I have a lot of work. And with that receptivity, it opens us to receiving the holy name in a pure way. Gaur Govinda Maharaj was once asked the question about why, well, he brings it up in a class rather. It says, Krishna prema pradayate, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving Krishna prema. So logically one will ask, well, why am I not receiving prema? And Gaur Govinda Maharaj, he says that prema is, it manifests itself within the heart, and there's a container that in which it's stored in. And that container is the container of our heart, but that container at the present moment has holes in it. And that's lust, greed, anger, arrogance, these unwanted qualities, these anarthas. So the remedy for that is to replace them with genuine humility. And so he says that we have to fill it in with Trinata Pisa Nuchena, Tarota Pisa Nishuna, Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. That way, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving prema, it doesn't slip away from our heart, because we've received it with a heart that's free of holes. So it's just a constant endeavor to want to improve in our devotional service, not ever feeling that, I've made it. Even in the spiritual world, Nitya Siddhas are constantly meditating on how they can improve their service to Krishna. That's actually a characteristic of the spiritual world, is everything's ever new and ever fresh. So similarly, the devotee's attitude of wanting to improve the service of Krishna as an eternal improve our service to Krishna as an eternal principle of service. But we can't improve if we're not willing to admit that our service isn't perfect. So to be simple means to receive instructions without questioning it in a envious way. You can question for clarification, but we shouldn't question to challenge in order to get our motive across. We should just be receiving the desire of the spiritual master very simply, and taking that desire in our head and carrying it out with all sincerity. That's what it means to be simple. Glenn, you have anything to say? Balaram Prabhu? No, just anything. Reflect on. We have a little bit of time.
Yeah, you were mentioning the idea of preserving spiritual culture, because that's that's very important, that first of all we become educated in the knowledge that is being presented, like the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and so on, and also the different cultural aspects to it. Because each generation has a responsibility to carry on the legacy or the particular tradition, or else it just becomes something else. It dies completely, or it gets so the Prabhupada disciples, many of them a lot of them left, but a lot of them, some stayed. And they tried, and they're trying still to preserve whatever Prabhupada gave them. And but so similarly, the next generation also has to do that. And as time goes on, that's going to become more and more of a real thing, a reality that has to be done. So it seems pretty serious. So we have to be serious about that.
And the only way we're really going to be able to do that is if we're humble about it. We see so many people who may have left because maybe of some false pride. And we have to just see ourselves as a servant of our own spiritual master in preserving this culture of Krishna consciousness. And so it's a big responsibility, very big responsibility. But if we just adhere to the instructions of our own spiritual master who's adhering to the instructions of Srila Prabhupada, then we can have faith in the preservation of this culture.
I have another question.
Okay.
So when we detect, when we're detecting these anarthas in our heart, sometimes it can be difficult to understand, okay, what exactly is the next step? Like, okay, so this is there, and it can, the mind very easily can dwell on, okay, how did this happen? Why is this going on? How is this anartha? How is it manifested or whatever? So should our very next step just be to forget about it and to chant, or to go and read, or to associate with because sometimes it can be hard to figure out, okay, what do I do like right now when I'm faced with such anartha?
It's good to be aware of it, but not to dwell on it. I'm trying to find a quote that my good friend Akshay told me. We shouldn't take shelter in the proposals of our mind in regards to our anarthas. We should take shelter in Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu and how to overcome those anarthas. So the way we overcome those anarthas is by engaging in potent spiritual activities that have been given to us by the acharyas. And those potent spiritual activities is chanting Hare Krishna, associating with devotees, residing in the holy place, worshipping the deity, and hearing srimadbhagavatam. And associating with devotees means revealing our mind, because anarthas, one of the anarthas is doubts. And those doubts are removed through the association of sadhus by speaking Harikatha. It's just like in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asks, please remove these demon-like doubts. So Prabhupada compares, in Krishna, or Arjuna compares doubts to demons, that these need to be slashed with a weapon of knowledge. So actually what prevents us from advancing in Krishna consciousness is the doubts that we have in regards to our Krishna consciousness. It's a lack of faith in the process of Krishna consciousness, because Shraddha Prema, it's just the intensification of faith. The example in Chaitanya Charitamrita is given is of a seed to rock candy, or for sugar. And the seed becomes a sugar cane, the sugar cane becomes sugarcane juice becomes molasses becomes sugar, and then sugar becomes hard rock candy. So this is like the intensification of our faith in Krishna consciousness. In faith, in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says, faith is developed in the association of devotees. And that association should be devotees who are more advanced than ourselves, because they have the realization and they have the faith that can enter into our heart. And according to our willingness to receive their knowledge, we can actually advance to the point that they're at as well, through their association, through their mercy. So when we're associating with each other, we should understand that we actually have the opportunity to help each other advance in Krishna consciousness. But that advancement is determined on based on the quality of the way we're associating with each other. Is our association based on Hari Katha, or is it based on Gramya Katha? Is it based on village talk, gossip? But if we associate with each other over Hari Katha, we actually benefit ourselves and those who are listening. So this is how we should associate with devotees of all levels, whether they're junior to us or senior to us or on equal standing with us. Should be the basis, it should be through the medium of Krishna consciousness, because everyone benefits in that way. So in overcoming our anarthas, we just have to find out where we can take shelter. Where is that shelter that's going to give us more taste for chanting? Where is that shelter that's going to give us more taste for Bhagavatam? And where's that shelter that's going to give us more taste for everything in relationship to Krishna consciousness? Because if we don't find shelter in those things in the process of going through anartha nivritti, then we're going to relapse back into the material energy and take shelter of the things that we've engaged in the material circumstances. So if we don't take shelter in Vaishnava association in the process of going through anartha nivritti, then we will take shelter in our anarthas and succumb to a lower influence. So the way we're associating with Vaishnavas is absolutely essential to our advancement in Krishna consciousness. That's why it's so important in the morning, when we're chanting, we can pray for good association. We can beg to the holy name to receive that association that will give us taste for the holy name. That's the way we can chant. Because we can't actually receive Shuddha Nam through our own endeavor. It's received through the mercy of Vaishnavas. It descends through the mercy of the devotees. So we have to develop a mood of taking shelter of things that are Krishna conscious and taking shelter of the instructions of devotees. Because if we don't take shelter of the instructions of devotees, we'll take shelter of the instructions of materialists. And Lord knows where that instruction will lead us. I know there's recent examples of devotees who have taken shelter in, like in the early days, for instance, when Prabhupada was on the planet, when the whole moon thing came up, devotees were taking shelter of materialistic scientists' opinion and then rejected Prabhupada. But now, if you look back on it, it's actually becoming like a pretty accepted thing that we didn't actually go to the moon. It's pretty accepted amongst particularly like the conspiracy group of people, and then even some people outside of that circle. They're accepting that. So we should just constantly be praying and cultivating faith in devotees and faith in the holy name. So when tough times come and dealing with anarthas, that's where we go to. We're not going to run to whatever combination or permutation of the material energy you can concoct in your mind. Okay, that's just about out of time, right? Okay. Oh, Glenn, one last question.
Can you explain the differences and similarities between humbleness or humility, being surrendered, and being a pushover?
Yeah. To be humble means that the humility gives impetus for service. One feels himself very low, but it's not in a case of self-pity or low self-esteem. Rather, it's an impetus for service. It's a impetus to take deeper shelter of chanting. It's an impetus to take deeper shelter of Vaishnava Sangha and of hearing srimadbhagavatam. Low self-esteem is something of more or less like a projection of the false ego where people are doing it for attention. But genuinely humility, it's an impetus for service. And generally those who are humble, they don't talk about how humble they are. You can see their humility based on their service attitude. So it's kind of yeah, I think does that answer your question? Okay. Yeah. Okay, Grantaraj srimadbhagavatam ki jai. Vanchkalpatarubhascha kripasindhudeva patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.